It all started with a can of red paint and a dream. After years of saving, I finally bought my first home in a quiet suburban neighborhood. The place had charm, tree-lined streets, friendly neighbors, and a tiny backyard that felt like my personal sanctuary. It was part of a homeowners association, HOA, which I didn't think much about. They had rules, sure, but nothing I couldn't handle. Or so I thought. On a bright Saturday morning, I stood outside, admiring my latest project, a fresh coat of red paint on my front door. Bold? Maybe? But I'd always loved the look, a splash of personality. On an otherwise bland row of beige homes, just as I was putting away the brush, a shrill voice pierced the air like a siren. "Oh, no, 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 what is this?" I turned to see her. Karen, every neighborhood has one, the self-appointed queen of the HOA board. Her platinum blonde bob bounced as she marched toward me. Clipboard clutched like a weapon. Oversized sunglasses hiding eyes that probably hadn't blinked since 2006. "You're violating Code Section 3B. Exterior modifications without HOA approval." She shrieked. I blinked, confused. "It's just paint. On my door, it's red. This isn't a carnival, young man. We have standards." I tried to reason with her, offering to file retroactive approval, but she wasn't listening. Instead, she pulled out her phone. "You've left me no choice," she said dramatically. "I'm calling 911. My jaw dropped. "For paint?" She ignored me, dialing. "Hello, yes. I'd like to report a homeowner engaging in unauthorized construction. It's urgent." The operator must have been as confused as I was, because she repeated herself like a broken record. "Yes. Red paint. On the front door." No, I'm not joking. Within minutes, 2 patrol cars rolled up the street, sirens silent but lights spinning lazily.
"Oh!"
Officers stepped out, clearly expecting some kind of emergency. "Ma'am, where's the threat?" one asked. Karen gestured wildly at my house. "There, the door. It's red." The officer stared at it for a long second. ... And "It violates our HOA design standards," she hissed. "We can't have everyone painting doors whatever color they want. It lowers property values." Out. The taller officer turned to me. "Sir, is this your house?" "Yes." "And you painted the door?" "Sure did." Exchanged a look with his partner, who looked like he was trying not to laugh. "Ma'am, this isn't a police matter," Karen gasped. But he didn't file a request?" "There are procedures. This is anarchy." "Unless he's vandalizing someone else's property," the officer said gently. "There's nothing criminal here." Karen's face turned a shade of red that rivaled the door. She muttered something about speaking to the mayor and stormed off. The officers chuckled, told me to have a nice day, and left. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The very next morning I woke. Up to a violation notice nailed? Yes, nailed to my mailbox post. It was from the HOA, citing me for unauthorized external alterations. A $500 fine was listed at the bottom in bright red ink. Coincidence? That afternoon, I received another notice, this time in my inbox. Karen had submitted an official complaint with 14 photos of my door, each labeled with snarky titles like "Before the Desecration" and "Visual Assault Number 3. I chuckled at first. But then the harassment escalated. Trash cans were mysteriously left blocking my driveway. A neighbor told me Karen had been going door to door, warning people I was a rule breaker trying to ruin the integrity of the block. HOA board meetings were suddenly rescheduled without notice, and I was never informed. But the worst? One afternoon I came home to find paint remover splashed on my door. The red was streaked with ugly blotches. I called the police, filed a report, and asked if there were any cameras nearby. Fortunately, nothing solid. Still, I had a good idea who was behind it, and that's when I decided I wasn't going to back down. I spent the next few days doing research. Turns out, the HOAS's own charter didn't prohibit red doors. It only required muted colors within the existing palette. And red was listed as an approved shade, though rarely used. So I printed the policy and mailed it to the entire board with a highlighted section and a note that said, "Next time, read your own rules." Then, I went one step further. I posted a picture of my door on the neighborhood forum, explaining everything. The harassment, the 911 call, the retaliation. Kept it factual, without insults. It's just the truth. The response was explosive. Comments poured in from neighbors I'd never even met. Karen did what? She called the cops over paint. You're not the first. She bullied my husband over our garden gnome. Turns out I wasn't alone. Karen had been terrorizing the neighborhood for years, issuing bogus fines, manipulating rules, and lording over everyone like a tyrant in Capri's. One neighbor, Ms. Thompson, suggested we hold a special vote to recall her from the HOA board. I didn't even know that was possible, but it was, and people were ready. The neighborhood was buzzing. After I shared my story online, it was like someone had opened the floodgates. One by one, neighbors started coming forward. Mr. Dwyer, 2 houses down, revealed he was fined for putting up solar lights. A young couple said Karen reported them to animal control for letting their cat sit in a window. Even old Mrs. Green, sweet and quiet, shared that Karen once demanded she remove her bird feeder because it attracted unapproved wildlife. Turns out, everyone had a Karen story. So when Ms. Thompson suggested a special vote to recall her from the HOA board, people jumped in immediately. We organized quickly. I helped draft a petition, needed signatures from 60% of homeowners too, force a vote, and we had almost that by the end of the week. I went door to door with neighbors I barely knew before this. People weren't just signing, they were venting. She'll fine me for having non-regulation blinds. Who does that? She told my daughter her bike was a trip hazard. She took pictures of my backyard through the fence. Karen had ruled the HOA for too long. Now people were done being afraid of her. Meanwhile, Karen doubled down. New violation letters appeared, not just for me, but for anyone who had commented on my post. One neighbor got fined for leaving their garage door open too long, another for parking 1 inch over the line. People laughed at first until fines stacked up. But this time, we were ready. We hired a lawyer. Well, technically, the lawyer lived in our neighborhood. A chill guy named Marcus who had once been fined by Karen for having too many wind chimes. He offered to help pro bono, said it was a matter of community justice. Marcus reviewed the HOA bylaws and confirmed what I had found. Not only was Karen misusing her power, but many of her fines were unenforceable. They weren't properly documented, and the process she used violated procedural fairness. He helped us finalize the petition and send a formal request for a recall vote. Karen tried to block it, but legally she couldn't stop it. The date was set, August 17th, at the community clubhouse. On the day of the vote, the room was packed. People stood along the walls, whispering and buzzing with energy. Karen sat at the front like a queen on a crumbling throne, clipboard in hand, fake smiling but clearly sweating. She opened the meeting in her usual condescending tone, as, "Your HOA president, I'd like to remind everyone that our community thrives when rules are followed," and Marcus stood up. "With respect, Karen, this meeting isn't about rules. It's about you." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Karen's smile tightened. "I have served this community for 6 years. I've ensured property values remain high and that we maintain our standards. Without structure, there's chaos." "Structure doesn't mean dictatorship," said Ms. Thompson. "You've harassed homeowners. You called 911 over paint." That got some laughs. Karen flushed red. It was a blatant disregard for policy. The door color was approved. I said from the back. Karen tried to pivot. "This is a coordinated smear campaign. These people are exaggerating." That's when we rolled out the binder. Marcus had compiled 30 testimonies, all printed, signed, and dated. Photos, emails, citations, even a voicemail where Karen threatened to escalate matters to city enforcement over a mailbox that was too whimsical. The room went silent as Ms. Green, usually shy and soft-spoken, stood up. "You made me cry over a bird feeder," she said. "I felt scared in my own garden. That's not leadership, that's bullying." And with that, the vote began. Each homeowner placed a sealed ballot in the designated box. We waited while 3 neutral volunteers counted. Karen sat frozen, tapping her pen furiously, eyes darting. Then came the announcement, by a vote of 83 to 12. Karen has been removed as HOA president. Applause, applause, cheers, a few. People even hugged. Karen stood up like she might protest, but no one was listening. For the first time in years, she didn't have control. She stormed out, muttering something about suing everyone. But the moment she walked out that door, the whole atmosphere changed. Lighter, freer, peaceful. In the weeks that followed, things improved fast. The new interim HOA board, made up of neighbors we actually trusted, eliminated bogus fines, revised outdated policies, and introduced a community suggestion box. Marcus even helped rewrite the charter to prevent one person from holding too much power again. And me? I repainted my front door. Same shade of red. Brighter this time. I also got to know my neighbors better. We started weekly BBQs in the park. Someone brought a karaoke machine. Ms. Green became our unofficial dessert queen, always showing up with a tray of brownies. One night, Mr. Dwyer raised a toast, 2 red doors, bird feeders, wind chimes, and no more 911.